Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Harborne Islamic Study Circle HISC Seerah session 134, Banu Mustaliq part 4 or part 2 of the ifk against Aisha. So we talked, we gave the context of Banu Mustaliq and the fact that Abdullah ibn Ubai, the leader of the hypocrites, has been exposed, and he's not happy about it. Obviously, Allah has exposed his hypocrisy in the Qur'an, Surah Munafiqeen. And to stop any disturbances, the Prophet ﷺ told the army to march. So they near enough marched 24 hours. Set up camp just outside of Medina. Everyone's shattered. They rest, and then the next day they gather up to enter into Medina. As we say, Surah Munafiqeen's been revealed, and the Prophet he's telling the army, let's gather up and let's head into Medina. So Aisha, she thinks, okay, well, I let me just relieve myself and get ready. So she goes off out of sight, relieves herself, comes back. As she's about to get into the Howdage, which is her sort of her cabin that's put on the camel, she realizes she's dropped her necklace, and she panics because she likes the necklace. It's a sentimental value. She can't find it there, so she retraces her steps to see where she could have dropped it, to the place where she was, and she searches extensively around there. She can't find it, spends a lot of time finding it, trying to look for it, then decides to come back. By the time she's back, everyone is gone. The campsite is empty. Much like the sort of morning after Goose Fair, everything's gone. And so she hadn't realized that she'd taken so much time looking for the necklace and that they would leave so quickly. And she explained she was just a young girl. She wasn't very big. She was just quite light. So the people who put her howdage on the camel, they probably didn't realize that she wasn't in there. So she goes, I'll just rest here and wait for them to come back for me. So she rests and she falls asleep, and then she gets woken up by Safwan ibn Mu'attal, who says, when he sees her, he gasps, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. So she wakes up and she's startled, what's going on here? And then he lets her sit on the camel, and then they walk into Medina. No big deal. She didn't think of it as a big deal, neither did Safwan. They didn't have any conversations or gossiping, because there's a hijab between the wives of the Prophet ﷺ and the Ummah. And then she falls ill instantly from this journey, and then she's sort of bedridden for a whole month. And then and in that month, Abdullah ibn Ubai, who was at the back of the army, he saw them two coming in. He's starting spreading this calumny about Aisha and Safwan, and it spreads like wildfire throughout Medina. And Abdullah ibn Ubai, he's very clever in the way he spreads this slander. It's non-attributable. He's in a position of power and influence as being chief, and he's saying it to people and then dispatching them to spread this evil. And that's the way these sort of powerful people work, is they cover their tracks. It doesn't come back to them. Abdullah ibn Ubai, he's one of these really evil people, hypocrites, who's able to do that. And again, because he's in power, a position of power, people aren't going to snitch on him. So he's spreading this, instigating the spread of this rumor and this gossip, and it's throughout Medina. Aisha's just blissfully unaware of this. Everyone else is aware of this. Right? The Prophet, he gets to hear of this, and the Sahabi get to hear, but they can't do anything because Aisha, she's ill, she's bedridden, she can't defend herself. They can't even ask her what's happening. So then a month later, she's better, and then as she is suddenly better, some sort of fever, a virus infection, or whatever, instantly cleared, and she's better. So she goes off with Mistah, her aunt, the sister of Abu Bakr Siddiq, and on the way back, Mistah, the mother of Mistah, she trips over her gown and she curses her son Mistah, right? And then Aisha goes, wait, why are you saying this about your son? He fought in the Battle of Badr. And then Mistah said, look, my dear child, don't you know what's going on? Don't you know what's being said about you? And then she tells Aisha what's being said. So that's where we left it the last session. So Aisha, she goes back. She's panicked. She doesn't know what to do. This is literally unbelievable. So she says she's physically and emotionally sick, even more than she'd ever been before. And then she narrates the Prophet came in, entered upon her house, and this is her house next to the masjid. And he didn't know that she knows, and so she, he asked, how is she? And then she asked, look, can I go and stay with my parents? And the Prophet says, okay, that's fine. You're looking better. Obviously, you can go. So she gets permission from her husband to spend the night in another house. So she goes back to her mum and dad's house, which is out of town. It's not in the close vicinity of the masjid. And she goes to her mum and says, my mother, what are the people talking about? What is this slander, and why didn't you tell me? And her mother, Ruman, she says, look, calm down, girl, calm down. Be easy on yourself, for, again, this is the hadith, be easy on yourself, for wallahi, never does a good man love her wife as much as yours, except that people talk about it, right? And basically, look, don't worry, your husband dearly loves you, and people are going to say things, right? And you will be the object of gossip. So she doesn't go into any detail. She just calmly says, look, don't worry about it, and especially as you're a co-wife, there things are going to be said. So don't worry about it. There's nothing to concern yourself over. And then again, as a young girl, she doesn't know how can people actually make up stuff like this, right? How can people actually make up stuff like this? So subhanallah, have people actually said this? Is what she says to her mother, right? And then she says in the hadith, carrying on the long hadith, I cried and I cried until morning came. She's just crying all night, and my tears wouldn't stop, right? And I did not taste the sweetness of sleep, right? So non-stop crying, and it shows you her character. So then Aisha explains the one who took charge of this, right? And she's quoting the Qur'an. Allah says the one who took charge of this. She's saying this is Abdullah ibn Ubai. So she is giving a tafsir of the Qur'an. This is a verses in Surah An-Nur, the first section of Surah An-Nur. So the one who took charge of this, right? Ibn Salool, from one of the evil people from the Khazraj, right? And the majority of the hypocrites were loyal to him, and they were from Khazraj, right? And apart from the Khazraj, there were three others who were spreading the slander. There was Mistah that we talked about, Mistah bint Athatha, right? And Mistah is the one that we just talked about. And Mistah ibn Athatha, he was poor. He was a Badriun. And he used to have some charity from Abu Bakr Siddiq. There's Hassan bin Thabit, and we talked about him. He's the poet of the Prophet. He's the official poet, and he would, whenever things would be said against the Prophet, he was creative, and the Prophet appointed him as the official poet, and even had his own mimbar in the masjid of the Prophet, where he would do his counter propaganda. And this is Hassan bin Thabit, and we talked a bit about him in the story of the Battle of the Ditch, where, being the creative sort, he wasn't the fighting sort. He was stationed with the women and children. And then there's the wife of the Prophet's sister. So the sister of the wife of the Prophet, so Zainab bint Jahsh, her sister Hamnah bint Jahsh, she was spreading the gossip as well. So you've got the Munafiqeen, Abdullah ibn Salool and the Munafiqeen. You've got Mistah, Hassan and Hamnah. These are the main culprits spreading these lies. So these three, Mistah, Hassan and Hamnah, they are just saying what people are saying. So the gossip is da 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 da. People have said da da da. So they're not themselves lying, they are gossiping. I think this is an important differentiation. It's Abdullah ibn Salool who came up with the lie, and he's telling other people to spread the lie. What these people are doing is they're propagating the slander, propagating the lie. So again, when it comes to the fiqh, these are different punishments, because one is fabricating something, one is lying, one is spreading the gossip. Okay. And there's, you can lie and gossip about things, and then lying and gossiping out something like zina, adultery. This is a complete no-no. We'll talk about that in terms of the lessons. So, but Aisha, she then refers to Abdullah bin Ubai, and then says that they didn't the other three didn't invent the lie, but they fell prey to gossiping and spreading the news. As for Hamnah, her sister was Zainab bint Jahsh, and she was the only wife of the Prophet who rivaled me, right? And again, there's a rivalry between the co-wives. And Zainab bint Jahsh, we talked about her. She's from a noble background. She's the cousin of the Prophet, right? So she has status, and she's known the Prophet for many years. So Aisha says, look, in terms of affection for the Prophet, I wasn't concerned about the other wives, even Hafsa, right? My main rival was Zainab bint Jahsh, right? And again, newly married according to this chronology. But Hamnah wanted to help her sister for this rivalry, but she suffered because of this. So this is Aisha recounting this. Hamnah, because her sister was Zainab, and she just wanted to sort of bat for Zainab, so she was spreading this. She wasn't told by Zainab, and Aisha, even though there's this rivalry between Aisha and Zainab, Aisha in fact defends Zainab, and she says, look, as for Zainab, her deen protected her, right? So Zainab, she said that again, she's never heard anything bad about Aisha, so her deen protected her. She wasn't going to get involved with this. And we talked about the high character of Zainab bint Jahsh a couple of sessions ago. But Ibn Salool, his tribalism got the better of him, and he's doing this on account of that. So this is now in the open. The Prophet ﷺ realizes that Aisha's better. She's got off to stay with her family. Now the Prophet ﷺ can sort of step up a gear and start to verify these things and investigate this properly. So Aisha's gone away. So the Prophet ﷺ now, he calls for testimony of some of the close people that he trusts, who would know Aisha, who would know his household. So he asks for Ali, obviously his cousin and married to his daughter, and he asks for Usama bin Zaid. Now Usama bin Zaid, He's born and grown up in the household of the Prophet ﷺ. His mother is Ayman, and Ayman married Zaid bin Haritha, the adopted the adopted son of the Prophet ﷺ. So Ayman, she also took care of the Prophet ﷺ when the Prophet ﷺ was young, and so Ayman is sort of the nanny. She's not a foster mother, but she's a nanny of the Prophet ﷺ. So Ayman and Zaid bin Haritha, they married. Their son was Usama bin Zaid, and obviously we talk about Zaid. Zaid's married with Zainab, not working out. So Usama was called, and the Prophet was then asking. And Usama is a young man, so he can sort of he's in his early teens at this stage, and so he's got good access to the household of the Prophet. So Aisha, she recounts the hadith she's carrying on. As for Usama, he testified what he knew, that the Prophet's family is free of any blame. Right? So she's saying, look, Usama saying, look, you've got nothing to worry about. Aisha, blameless. Right? So he goes, as for Usama, he testified that the Prophet's family is free of blame, and that this is not possible to happen. The rumors, just incredible. They cannot happen. So Usama, clean bill of health. As for Ali, this is Aisha recalling, as for Ali, he said, Allah has not restricted the matter for you, and you can marry again. But if you want to know of her character, then call her maidservant Bareera, and she will know more. So again, there's a bit of sort of niggle between Aisha and Ali. You can see here, Ali's not given a complete clean bill of health, but he's not said anything bad. He just said, look, I know nothing of this. If you want to know better, ask her maidservant Bareera. She'll tell you, better than me. And even if there is a problem, if you're still unsure, it doesn't matter. You can marry again. That's fine. Okay. So that was Ali's response. And again, some people then extrapolate that from this tension you can see how there was something between the two. And again, years later on, in the Battle of the Camel, you can see people then extrapolate that you've got Aisha on one side, you've got Ali on the other side. But anyway, that's a completely different story. I'm not going to digress. Anyway, Bareera, she was a slave that was freed by Aisha, and then she, because she was so happy to be freed, she voluntarily became sort of at the service. It's like a maid of Aisha. And I'm not sure if this is the same Bareera that when she was freed divorced her husband, and her husband was crying in the streets of Medina, and the Prophet turned around to the Sahabi and said, like, isn't it amazing how somebody can be sort of married for so long, and then when they're freed they have the ability to divorce, because her husband was still a slave. So she could then divorce on that basis, and then she immediately divorced her husband, and her husband would be crying through the streets of Medina, begging for her to come back, and then she just turned around and said, look, I have no use for you now. And then that comment, the Prophet commented on that, and later on went to Bareera and said, look, take him back, and she said, look, no. Are you ordering me, or is this just some advice? And the Prophet said, I'm not ordering you, this is just advice. He's crying his eyes out. Why don't you take him back? Anyway, that's a different story. But Bareera, she's then summoned to an audience with the Prophet, and Ali, gathers her in, and she doesn't know what's going on. She's been summoned to talk to the Prophet. So she's in a panic, and then Ali sort of harshly sits her down and says, answer the Prophet. And the Prophet then says, Ya Bareera, have you seen anything from Aisha that would suggest that the rumors are true? Right? So the Prophet, he's having to play the judge and not, and sort of investigate for himself, and try and build the case. And it's difficult for him, because this is his wife. But he has to go through with this process of verification. He's talked to Ali, he's talked to Usama, and now he's talking to Bareera, and she goes, Wallahi, I have not seen anything from her except, and she's thinking, well, what can I say? She's blameless. And the only thing I can think of is that sometimes when she's supposed to, knead the dough to make the bread, she falls asleep, and then the goat comes and eats the dough while she's sleeping. Again, it just shows, their relationship and how young they are and innocent they are. So look, that's all I can think of. That's the only thing that comes to mind that I can vaguely criticize Aisha for. This is not even a sin. This is a vague criticism. If you want me to bring up dirt, this is the only dirt I have. Sometimes she falls asleep when she's supposed to knead the dough, and the goat comes and eats the dough. So there was some thanks them all. And Aisha, she's still out of town at her parents' house. The Prophet then calls a general meeting in the masjid to put down these rumours once and for all. And he calls the general meeting, and all people obviously come, well, what's happening here? It's a general meeting. The Prophet called this, and now he's had the chance to investigate the rumours. He's then going public, and he's got news from his closest people, and some of these close people are youngsters. Usama, he's early teens, and he's taking his word, and it's verified his his own feelings. So then he publicly defends Aisha, and he can, with confidence, put down a marker and say these rumours are rubbish. He doesn't believe in them. I mean, he's waited a whole month whilst these rumours are being spread, and he can't say or do anything. And there's no revelation from the Qur'an. Jibreel hasn't come down to announce the innocence of Aisha. So he's at a loss of what to do. So he does what he can. He investigates it and finds there's no basis for this, and he knows that Safwan is beyond reproach as well. So he gathers the meeting and he says, "Oh, gathering of believers, right? Who will excuse me from a person that has hurt me, even with regards to my own family, right? And wallahi, I know nothing but good from my wives, and even the man that they mentioned, Safwan ibn Mu'addal, I know nothing of good from him." So he's squashed these rumours once and for all and said, look, this is a load of rubbish. But can you blame me for, if anything happens to the person who started this? For goodness sake, this is my own family that you're maligning, right? I know nothing but good from my wives. This Safwan, I know nothing but good from him. And this is high praise for Safwan, right? Even after this whole month, right? And he said, oh, gathering of believers, can you, blame me from a person that has hurt me? So he knows who has started these rumours. Everyone knows who started these rumours. So immediately Saad stands up, and there's a difference of opinion which Saad this was. Some say it was Saad ibn Athatha, some say it's another Saad, some say it was someone else from the Aus. So someone from this Aus stands up and says, Ya Rasulallah, as for me, I excuse you for whatever you want to do to this man, right? To do to Abdullah ibn Ubai. Ya Rasulullah, as for me, I excuse you whatever you want to do to this man. If this man was from the Aus, I will cut his head off. If he is from the Khazraj, commanders, and then I will do it. And everyone knows who it is. But he's saying, look, I can't do it because he's from the Khazraj. If it was my own tribe, I would immediately cut his head off, right? And Abdullah ibn Ubai, he's from the Khazraj. So Sa'd ibn Ubadah from the Khazraj, he then stands up because he sees this as being an attack on his tribe, because you are not telling the truth, right? Wallahi, you cannot kill him, and you will not dare to kill him. Had he been from your tribe, you would not kill him. And so they're arguing again about this tribalism issue. They're distracting from the actual issue, which is the spreading of lies, and it's coming down to, well, you're only saying this because you know he's not from your tribe. If he was from your tribe, you wouldn't be saying stuff like this. So Sa'd ibn Ubadah, he's standing up to say this. So Aisha, she's still narrating this hadith, same hadith, and then she says, look, she's making an excuse for Sa'd ibn Ubadah, and she said, look, before this statement, he was a righteous man, but at this moment in time, Jahiliyyah overtook him, and he fell into a mistake, right? So she's, subhanAllah, saying, making the excuse for him. And then someone else from the Aus stood up and says, you are the liar, and we will kill him. You are just a munafiq fighting on behalf of another munafiq. Things are degenerating quickly. This has gone back to the Jahiliyyah, tribalism, the Aus and the Khazraj politics, and things are going out of control, right? So I'll just pause there and wait for the end of the adhan, and then I'll carry on for another couple of minutes, and then I'll call it today. Today, inshallah, now we'll carry on. I'll finish the hadith, and then inshallah talk about the lessons next time. So just quickly carrying on, people are fighting. One says we'll kill the munafiq, and said, look, you won't do it if he was from your tribe, and then we'll kill you. Things are getting out of hand. The Prophet has to calm them down and get them back out of business. But he said what he had to say, which is to defend the honor of his family. So then Aisha, she carries on the hadith. She's not aware, obviously at the time, because she's out of town, that the Prophet has done this, and she said, look, I continued to cry that day, and my tears would not stop until I thought my liver would burst open. I mean, that's how much, and if you cry a lot, you do strain, and and she's a young lass at that church. She just feels that as if she's just going to explode. She's crying so much. And then and says, while I was like this, one of the ladies of the Ansar asked to enter. She came in and she sat with me, and then she started crying. I'm crying, so she's crying, and we don't even know the name of this lady. She's just she's just there to provide comfort to Aisha. She knows what's going on. She knows how awful this can be. She's just showing sympathy and support. And again, this, it's a trait of us as Muslims that we should support each other in difficult times. This is a very traumatic time, so she's just coming there just to be there with her. She's being there, and the way she's supporting her is she bursts out crying. And then now the Prophet, he's, the Aisha still is. A couple of days have gone by. The Prophet asked around. He's made a public announcement. He now finally comes to the house of Abu Bakr Siddiq, and some say that he had Umar as well with him. So he asks permission to enter. He enters, and now he sits down, and then he says, "Amma ba'd." He starts the conversation, and he talks to Aisha, and says, "I have heard." And this is Aisha narrating the hadith, and this is against her. The Prophet ﷺ saying, "I have heard such and such about you, and if you are innocent, then Allah will clear you of this charge. But if you have slipped into sin, then seek Allah's forgiveness and repent to Him, for indeed, when a servant sins and asks for forgiveness, Allah will forgive." Just think about the gravity of this whole thing. Prophet ﷺ saying to his wife, right, and he knows she's innocent, but he's saying, look, I've heard this, you believe this, such and such, and Allah will clear you if you're innocent. But if you have slipped into sin, then ask Allah's forgiveness and He'll forgive you. Even though we know, adultery is such a grave crime that it is only forgiven, that the sin of it is only wiped away if you are dispatch the punishment in this world, which is to be killed. Okay, he says, look, Allah can forgive everything, so don't worry, right? So the Prophet, he's sort of confused in a difficult situation, and he's sort of talking about the Tawbah, and this is a month a month later, he's not been able to do anything. So as he's finished speaking, Aisha, she's immediately stops crying, and now she's she's completely full of rage, right? You're accused, you honestly, you thinking this? How could you think this? Me ask for forgiveness? So her tears completely dried up, right? And then just, she turns instantly. So the Prophet, I'm saying this. Did you really do this? So she turns immediately to her mother and says, answer the Prophet on my behalf. And Rahman, she says, by Allah, I don't know what to say. Wow. Aisha thinks, oh my gosh. She turns to her father and says, my father, say something. Subhanallah, Abu Bakr couldn't say anything. He said, my daughter, what do you want me to say? He can't say anything. Whoa, this is just completely gone beyond. She just, Prophet's asking her mom's not saying anything, her dad's not saying anything, right? And she goes, I was still a young girl and had not memorized much of the Qur'an, and I tried to, and she's in a panic state. I tried to remember the name of Yaqub, and she couldn't. And so she told the Prophet, I will only say to you what Abu Yusuf, his kunya, Abu Yusuf, the father of Yusuf, Yaqub, said. Allah will help me against what has been said, right? And, she's asking for the Sabrun Jamil. And then after saying this, I turned around in my bed and I faced the wall. And she says, I knew that Allah would eventually reveal my honesty, but never in my wildest dreams did I feel that Allah would reveal the Qur'an about me. Right? So when everything, the slander that's happened, gone on for a month, right? And there's she doesn't know what to do. She's asked her mother to defend her. She's asked her father to defend her, and the Prophet is even asking her, look, tell us the truth. She said, look, I'm just gonna put this on Allah because I know for sure Allah will eventually clear me. And that's what she says. And she said, look, I didn't think that Allah would reveal the Quran. She said, look, I was hoping that the Prophet would see a dream about me, right? And then, however, right there and then he lowered his head and wahi came to him, right? And wahi came to him at that moment in time. And then and everyone knows these are the close people of the Prophet. They know when wahi's coming, and wahi's coming. He's in that state, where he's lowered his head, pearls of sweat are on him, right? And then she says, and then when the wahi was lifted, the Prophet burst out laughing. Subhanallah. He burst out laughing, and the first word he said was, "Oh Aisha, verily Allah has revealed your innocence." And the first section of Surah An-Nur was revealed, right? And then obviously the Prophet is so happy. Everyone's so happy. And then her mother said, and she's recounting this hadith, and her mother said to Aisha, "Stand up and thank the Prophet ﷺ." But she said, "No, wallahi, I will not stand up for him." This is how she was. I will thank Allah for revealing the Qur'an. So that's essentially the end of the hadith. There's a couple of other sort of explanations in other different hadith where we're talking about the sadaqah that Abu Bakr Siddiq used to give to Mistah, and again the what happened to the three people, Zainab's sister Hamnah, and Hassan, and Mistah, and again we'll talk about that next time, inshallah. And inshallah we'll talk about the lessons from from this in the next session. And again, there's a lot of lessons that are revealed in these 10 verses of Surah An-Nur. But inshallah, we'll finish there. It's Maghrib time. I need to pray, obviously. Do make dua for the ummah. Do remember me in your duas. Any questions, queries, comments, Facebook, WhatsApp, DM me, and inshallah I'll answer them. So inshallah, until next time. بسم الله إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. جزاك الله خير everybody. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.